Hi, everybody. It's Mary Adams, and I am super excited to be here with you today and with Betsy Chassie. Betsy is an award-winning filmmaker. What the bleep do we know? She has more bestsellers than I can count. And as a publisher, she has helped aspiring authors to not only write in books together and write their own manuscripts, but to also learn systems that really help you bring out the wealth and the truth of what you want to write. And so I'm so excited to bring Betsy here to introduce you to all of you. Hey, Betsy.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for inviting me to hang out with the goddesses.
Thank you. So, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Wow. So I do a lot of things. I'm a writer, and it took me a long time to really acknowledge that I was a writer. I've been in film since I was born. My birth was literally filmed for a documentary on natural childbirth. So I was born to be into this creative space. And um, I started writing. I was a writer on What the Bleep Do We Know, as well as a producer and a director. And I've always just thought of myself in like this, high level creative capacity. And then I kind of went through a really dark time and found the pen. And I think that um, writing became like a healing tool for me more than probably anything, any other work that I've done. I guess meditation, yes, strange plants in the jungles far away, all of the things, right? But for me, writing really became the tool that connected me deep to my soul and to my heart and what I really wanted to share. And so um, I started working with other writers because I took a lot of the things that I learned about filmmaking and storytelling and realized that if people would say to me all the time, like, God, you'll talk about a book and then 6 months or a year later, the book actually comes out. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, how do you do that? And so a lot about what I write about now, my new book, which just came out, The Writer's Room, has kind of two segments to it. The first one is really breaking down the writing process in terms of character development, story structure, and all the things that make a good story, but not just in a high level way, but really a process for how to do it. So that a lot of people, what happens is they start with this great idea. And then George R. R. Martin did an interview. So he did Game of Thrones, right? So he talked about how he came up with the idea for Game of Thrones was he had this vision with this summer winter wolf, and he kept seeing this wolf but it was summer but it was winter, and he's like, God, what kind of story would that kind of creature be in? And that was one of the beginning phases of how Game of Thrones. So we started writing down ideas and began a little bit of writing, and he got a little ways down the road and he realized that he had to go back to the beginning because he had never built a world. He'd never built any structure or character outlines. And so, what I teach people how to do is to build the world for their book so that when they sit down to write their book, they don't have to, the space is open. They don't have to think about the plot line and the beats and what the character arc is. It's already sort of dreamt out so that all they really have to do is spend time painting the picture. And then the second part of the book is all about publishing, which ultimately a lot of people spend years and time writing their books, but then they don't know how to get them published. And I've been published by Simon and Schuster, so I've been through the big time publishing space. And after that experience, I realized that I'm not dissing big time publishers, don't get me wrong. But a lot of, especially not just publishers, but anything in media related right now, anybody like Netflix and those places, a lot of them are really risk averse. So unless you have 500,000 followers and have this big, huge platform, most publishers aren't necessarily going to look at your work, no matter how good it is. So how do we find smaller publishers? How do we work with different types of publishers? There's hybrid publishers, there's vanity publishers. There's a lot of companies out there that you'll pay a lot of money to and they won't help you at all and you're frustrated at the end. How do you navigate that world? So the book is kind of two pieces. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I believe everybody's story matters. And that especially with what's going on in the world right now, I think that we've lost human connection, and I think the way back is through each of us sharing our story. That was a very long answer, but there you go.
The answer is perfect. It's exactly what it needs to be. And I think what you have done for me as a first time writer and a second time writer and a first time bestseller and a second time bestseller is that not only was I embraced in my newness of stepping into this arena, and there were some things that I know, and there were some things that I really didn't quite understand that were the big tools that kept me from what I really wanted to create. Um, not only were those tools provided, but then the support and the guidance to
Hmm.
be able to publish something. I
Yeah.
think that's for me as a writer and someone, I mean, I have in my memories, I have this little list from when I was 6 years old of all of the things that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And
Hmm.
written on there was to write a book.
Hmm.
And so not only did I get that opportunity, but I got the confidence. I got the ability to have someone professionally look at my work and to be part of a book that had other authors that were brilliant as well, that were able to bring out their best pieces. And then in support of one another, it was amazing. And so, speak a little bit about these books that we've been
Yeah.
doing together. Mhm.
Sure. So one of the things I like to do, I call them collaboration books. And so one of the things I think first time writers especially, and not even first time writers, sometimes writers in general, get really intimidated about the idea about putting together a whole book by themselves. And so to create the collaboration books that I do, everybody comes together and it's like a little cooperative and we all write chapters and I work with each writer individually, helping them edit their chapter to make it beautiful and wonderful and exactly what they want it to be. And then we put a book together. And not only do you get to write and get published, but we do group calls together and we get to know each other. And we also, there's a lot of reasons why you should write a book. I talk about this at the beginning of my writing book. Some people want to write a book because they have a really important story they think that will help other people. They want to write a book because they love fantasy or they love a specific genre and they want to sort of be in that world. Um, Sometimes you write a book that you don't really ever intend to publish, but it's a great way to pass on your legacy for your children. So that they know your story. I don't know about you, but my kids love like all the crazy wild child stories that I tell them about my life. They're like, Mom, please write this all down in a book so that we can remember all the crazy things that you've done in your life. So, so there's those reasons. And then, building your brand. Some people, a lot of people need a calling card, and a book is a great way to bring new marketing opportunities and new media opportunities. And when you do it as a collaborative effort, you're not doing it alone. So you get like, I tell people honestly, anyway, I mean, obviously things can cost what they cost. I mean, you have your budget, whatever you want to spend on your book. But some people, can spend anywhere between $5,000 to $20,000 to put out a book by themselves. Whereas if you do a book in this way, usually the fee is between 500 and 750, depending on the number of people in the book. And you get a published book and you get a collection of other people that support each other and follow each other and cheer each other on and connect. And so many of the books that we've done, we keep getting repeat people joining the books and you all have become friends. Like I remember, you'll have to show everybody like the picture of you guys all at your book signing together, all you women in Texas, and how fun that was, right? And how you just
Oh my
built this
God.
kind of community out of nowhere.
Yes, well, for sure. And then to top it off, Betsy and I work together on many, many projects. And I get the honor of being her marketing person, being working with the different people who are doing the books to help them out. And so, and the last three books that we promoted together, we got to bestseller and number one and the last one just got to number one new release and is still on
And
the
that was all
bestseller list.
dudes. That was all dudes. That was the
It was
hardest one
great.
I think we've done. You and I, with all the guys. I remember doing the Zoom with all the guys, and they just all sat there in silence, and it was just like, okay. But they got to number one bestseller. I was really proud of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think writing is this, it's an art form that I think people get intimidated by. And what I try to do is say, hey, it's it's not as hard as you think if what you're writing comes from this authentic place, number one.
Yeah,
And number two, if you some people really like to understand story structure. They like to understand, well, there's tray tag system or there's the 3 act structure. And I explain all these things. And once they have, it's like once you have all the tools that you need, the writing actually comes a lot easier. It's the intimidation of, I don't know how to write a book that usually stops people before they get started.
for sure. And and your approach is wonderful, and your patience with us, especially people who are late with their stories. Um,
I
because
build in time. I know it's a process. Like we're doing this
yeah.
book right now. You're a part of this book. It's called I Love You, I Hate You, and Healing the Mother-Daughter Wound. I don't know if any people that are listening have daughters and their mothers, then that makes perfect sense to them. I mean, I'm of the mind that if my daughter hasn't told me that she hates me at least once a week, most of the time, I'm not doing something right. But and then she still comes back and talks to me, so that's okay. But this book is really profound, and it's interesting how like these books just come and then they seem to hit like right when the world needs it the most. And so the mother-daughter book is really about not just exploring my relationship with my mother or my daughter, but the collective mother-daughter wound that's going on around us and in the planet. We are the daughters of this planet, and what kind of wound are we healing? So there's lots of ways to share that piece of what you want to share. It doesn't have to be specific, but what's interesting is when we get all these people together, everyone's like, well, how do you not get the same story? Like, how does it not get repetitive chapter to chapter? And I was like, well, because every single person, even if we're all talking about the same thing, everybody describes the color red that they see completely differently. And when you read the chapters, you go, wow, they might have been talking about the same thing, but I heard so many different ways to connect with it, approach it, heal it. And so that's also what's really fun when people get together and write these books. They realize they might have had a perspective and they wrote about that perspective. Then they read somebody else's chapter in the book and they're like, that just changed everything for me. So it's a very profound piece of writing and doing work together that I love the most. And I Love You, I Hate
Yeah.
You comes out in February, and we still have 2 spots left right now. We're trying to finalize those last 2 spots over the next couple like week. But yeah, and we'll be a bestseller because Mary's doing our marketing.
Yeah. Well, and having that bestseller is great. But I really want to mention, Betsy, is that for me, the 50 and Fabulous book, the first book I did with you, it was an exercise in how much information do I really want to share. So I went generic. I did. But the 50 and Fabulous book was, boy, it was a deep dive for me into this new land of emptiness, this new who am I, this redefining relationship, redefining what I want in my life and what's coming next after, I'm going to be 57 woo, in January, and I'm on golden ticket time. It's like, it is time.
Yeah.
And so this book, writing this book opened me up in a way, and just being a part of these books, Betsy, it healed me in ways that, not to go on and on here, but you opened new doors for me that I didn't know existed at the time. It was
Oh, I'm so
fabulous.
glad. Well, that's part of
Yeah.
what women need to do for each other, and not just women. I mean, in this particular, the next book, it is just women. But what the cool thing is a lot of the books have both men and women in them,
Yeah.
and we've had husbands and wives do different chapters about different things. But it's really about building community because that's what we need. We need more real connection, and it's not just like, oh, I have this Facebook group I'm in or this group. We really, really, really connect. We talk, and some people. The interesting thing about these books is there'll be people in the book that you've never seen. So I allow people to participate at the level that they would like to participate in. So, but a lot of the time, everyone's like, "When's our next Zoom? When's our next group?" And then you find out, oh, we all did this together, and it's really a big part of why I do what I do,
Yeah. Well,
and to
and let's
help
talk
people
about,
get their voices out and to get to settle in their voice. I think writing one chapter in a book gives you this the strength to go, wait, I can actually do this.
Yeah, for sure. And then the mastermind group that you've created, which I'm just loving. I am getting to write my own book and getting this first opportunity to have your guidance to do that. That has been huge. So tell everybody a little bit about the mastermind program and what that's all about.
Yeah, so I run mastermind programs with writers. I keep them around 6 to 10 people. The goal is that by the end of, so I'm doing one that's starting in January. It'll go through June. This is a 6 month mastermind. We meet once a month as a group. You meet once a month with me, and then you follow the steps. And this mastermind, the goal of this mastermind is by the time June rolls around, you will have completely outlined your book and you will be written at least the first 3 chapters of your book. And not only are we going to write on, make sure you're getting your book written, but we're going to do skills on descriptive writing, plot outlining, using different types of writing techniques. Like, some people love to start books in the beginning, in the middle of the story, and then bounce back. Like, how do you do that, those kinds of things effectively? So we really look at how your story needs to unfold, and then you learn the tools. Everybody loves a great movie, right? I'll give one tool away. Like, I guarantee you, any movie that you've watched that you've loved followed the hero's journey, plain and simple. So if you now, when you go watch movies tonight, or even if you're watching a TV show, you're going to notice 2 things. One, they'll follow the hero's journey, and 2, they'll use the 3 act structure. So as you're watching these shows, you don't even realize that subconsciously the way in which the story unfolds and the tools that the writer is using to tell the story is subconsciously making you fall in love with it. So I help you learn those tools so that your story becomes richer, more developed, way more depth. Your characters have depth. And that's what people, when they read a book, that's why they want to read it. They're into it. And those are the tools that I think a lot of people become really intimidated about having. So I want to help you know those tools and then find your voice using those tools.
Mm.
So it's
I
six
and
months,
yeah.
and I'm doing a special right now because I have a book out called The Writer's Room, which I should have a copy of, but I don't with me. And so right now I'm offering, if you buy the book, you're going to get entered into a sweepstakes to win a free scholarship to my mastermind, which is $3,500 value. I've done this every mastermind. I've given away one scholarship, and it's just been that one person is always, it's just unbelievable what they come out with. So this mastermind, you buy a book, you'll get immediately entered into the contest, which will be announced sometime right after Christmas. If I also have a video course, which is the beginning part of my book mostly, doesn't really talk too much about the publishing. It's really about structure. If you buy the video course, you get 2 entries into the contest.
Oh, I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That is perfect. And I just want to end that up with the mastermind. It is an incredible opportunity, not just to get your book out there. And Betsy is also available to help with getting books published, with doing some of these different pieces
Mhm.
of the process. And I know that you're working with a lot of, you were telling me earlier, you're working with a lot of personal clients on taking their manuscripts and putting them together.
Yeah. Well, I liked, one of the things that happens is that when things become big, like self-publishing became big, and then all of a sudden there's all these groups that are like, oh, you can publish through us and give us $20,000, give us 30. And I've watched people spend that kind of money and just not get the results. And it frustrates me. And I want to, me, I'm a tenacious little booger, and I refuse to like take no for an answer. And I've like to find the ways to do things without, I mean, obviously you need to pay for editors. I think people don't understand that, like, there's a couple places where you have to be willing to spend the money and you're going to get what you pay for. An editor is one of them. But there's other places where I think people are spending way too much money and they don't need to. And it's not going to, it exponentially isn't going to do anything better for them, whether they spend 5,000 or 500. So I teach them, and by bringing them to you, a couple of these people are now working with you because now they realize, oh my goodness, I didn't have to pay this company thousands of dollars to get this worse results than what I'm getting you. I can't afford that anyway. So I work with clients and helping them map out a strategy to get the book where they want it to get with the budget that they have. And then I help them connect them with resources to do that, like you.
Absolutely. And biggest of all, Betsy, I can't thank you enough for being part of Goddess Love, being one of our teachers, being one of our guides, and showing up for women. That's
Yeah.
the best part for me is that I get the opportunity as a Goddess Love member to show up and be that voice. And to, and ladies, one thing that I want to say is that when you start writing, when you start journaling, when you start sharing what it is that you're thinking inside, it changes other people, it heals other people. And I know many of you have books that you're wanting to write, you have messages and stories that need to be shared. And so, whether you work with Betsy and I, or whether we can cheer you on through Goddess Love to start writing, to start creating, that's the goal.
That's the
That's the
truth.
goal. And
Your
that
story
changes the
now
world.
matters. Yeah.
It changes the world. Your story is going to change the world. And so
That's
it's time to
great.
speak up. It's time to write. It's time to be that part of that change.
Yeah.
So, Betsy, thank you
Thank
for doing
you.
that.
Oh, well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Mary. I adore and love you, and I really
Love you
appreciate
too.
your support. Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.